to the heart of the Kenya Disability Manifesto. It's a call for a world where everyone, regardless of ability, has the chance to live a dignified, purposeful life and feel like they belong.
Ngor challenges us to go beyond just accommodating people with disabilities and aim for true inclusion. He's not just asking for a place at the table, he wants a voice in shaping the future. But how do we move from these inspiring words to concrete action?
That's the question we'll dig into in the last part of our deep dive. We'll look at specific steps that individuals, organizations, and society as a whole can take to make Ngor's vision a reality.
Okay, so we've spent this deep dive exploring the ideas in the Kenya Disability Manifesto. This call for a real change in how we approach disability. But how do we actually make this happen? Where do we even start?
Yeah, it can feel like a huge task. But what Ngor does so well is he shows us how important both individual action and big systemic changes are. So let's start with what we as individuals listening right now can do.
Right, so on a personal level, what's our first step? It's easy to feel like whatever we do won't really matter.
It starts with taking a look at our own biases. We all have them. That's just part of being human. But the question is, are we aware of how those biases might be affecting the way we interact with people with disabilities?
So thinking about the language we use, the assumptions we make.
Exactly. Remember how the manifesto challenges that idea that disability automatically equals sadness or struggle? Are we, without even realizing it, projecting those narratives onto people?
Like we have to catch ourselves from falling into that inspiration porn trap, right? Where we only see disability as a story about overcoming obstacles.
Right. People with disabilities are, well, people. They have all kinds of experiences, good and bad days. They're not just there to inspire us.
So self-awareness is key. But what about concrete actions, things we can actually do?
Supporting organizations that are fighting for disability rights is huge. There are local groups, international ones, all pushing for policy changes, better accessibility, you name it.
Even something as simple as donating to a charity that's doing good work in this area.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of just helping to spread the word, sharing content made by people with disabilities, promoting their work. All of that helps change the conversation.
Speaking of changing the conversation, how do we make that happen on a bigger scale? Doing our own part is great, but it's the systems that need to change, isn't it?
That's where policies come in. Gurdai wants rights, respect, opportunities, and that means fighting for laws and regulations that make those things a reality.
I'm guessing accessible infrastructure is a big piece of this puzzle.
Oh, definitely. Public transportation, buildings, websites, they all need to be designed with accessibility in mind from the get-go, not as an afterthought.
What about discrimination in hiring? I bet a lot of people with disabilities face barriers when trying to get jobs.
For sure. We need to support laws that ensure everyone has an equal chance when it comes to getting hired, promoted, and paid fairly. And companies can take the lead here too.
So businesses need to be proactive about building diverse workforces and inclusive cultures.
Exactly. It's good for everyone involved. You get access to a wider range of talent, and you create a more ethical and fair workplace.
This all brings us back to technology. We talked about how Ujer used AI to create his manifesto, but that raises some questions about how accessible technology itself is.
Such a good point. Technology is becoming more and more ingrained in our lives, and we need to make sure it doesn't create new barriers for people with disabilities.
So things like AI-powered captioning, screen readers, those should be standard, not just special features.
And we have to think about the digital divide. Not everyone has equal access to technology, and that can further exclude people with disabilities.
So closing that gap is essential, both by making tech more affordable and providing the training people need to use these tools effectively.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it comes down to a shift in our perspective. Like Ngor says, it's about letting go of our sympathy and recognizing his agency.
So not seeing disability as something to feel sorry for or to try to fix, but understanding the lived experiences and celebrating the contributions of people with disabilities.
Exactly. The manifesto encourages us to focus on the potential, not the limitations, and to remember that creating a more inclusive world benefits everyone, not just those directly affected by disability.
So it's not about charity, but about justice. It's about creating a society that values diversity and recognizes everyone has something unique to bring to the table.
And as you go forward, keep thinking about this manifesto and what your role can be in making that kind of world a reality. What actions will you take? What conversations will you start? How will you help amplify the voices of people with disabilities? Every step you take, big or small, contributes to building a more just and equitable future for everyone.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope this has not just informed you, but also sparked some motivation to get out there and make a difference. Disability rights are human rights, and it's on all of us to make sure those rights are protected and upheld.